Joining us now, Denver Riggleman. You know, just when you thought it wouldn't get worse after Bigfoot, Leslie Cockburn, his Democratic opponent, what a crazy campaign this has been. Because I guess when you're down so big, you got to like throw Hail Marys or something. But Leslie Cockburn on a debate Monday night a week ago, she went after Denver's military service on the grounds he was 3,000 miles away from Afghanistan at Naval Support Facility Diego Garcia while he worked on plans, as you know, for bombing missions, apparently implying that he didn't play a big role, which, of course, we know he did. And Mr. Cockburn, Leslie's co-author husband on Dangerous Liaisons, said that he was snorkeling. I mean, this is a really crazy campaign the Cockburns are running. I mean, now we're going to say Denver didn't serve. Okay. What else are they going to make up? Joining us now, though, to get us the truth, is Denver Riggleman. He is the Republican candidate for the 5th District in Virginia. That's the Lynchburg area through Roanoke. And Denver is running for that seat to replace the retiring Tom Garrett. Denver Riggleman, great to have you.
Good. Hey, good morning, John. How are you?
Okay, so Leslie Cockburn's husband said, no, you didn't plan any bombing missions after the 9/11 attack in Afghanistan, that you were snorkeling in Diego Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I think the Cockburns have a problem with tweeting. They seem to get angry and lash out on Twitter, but that's how they run their whole campaign. Is they say disparaging things and make up things, whether it's Bigfoot, erotica, or white supremacy, or making fun of military service, or saying I don't care about women, or taking things out of context, and then they rush to Twitter to their Hollywood friends and they try to make it national news because, they have such extreme policies. And I think they're true believers, but they're just so out of touch. And for Andrew Cockburn to get involved to talk about my military service for somebody whose biggest service has been, making up fantasy books, I tell you almost get to the point you just start shaking your head. It's hard to take them seriously. I'll tell you that. And they just disparaged a lot of veterans too. And by the way, John, Diego is not the only place I've been. And that's the other thing. I don't have to defend my military service to the likes of them.
Well, it was certainly a desperate attempt. I mean, you've got a very, very well-documented military service, and you were the one that was head of the group that was planning.
The 34th Expeditionary Bomb Squadron out of Diego, which, me and you have talked about many times before. And, like I'd always told you, I've been in situations, in harm's way there. I was supporting a bunch of just awesome individuals that were going into battle. And when you talk to some of the people, the guys who ejected over the Indian Ocean, or us trying to keep them safe with the threats in Afghanistan, and going after the caves, and also all kinds of other things that I can't talk about, honestly, even yet. It's just funny because they don't understand anything about military service. Everything they've always done has been about themselves, and now they don't understand. They enjoined war against a war fighter, and they thought this would be a walkover when I came in as a new candidate, and they're finding out right now that I'm an alley fighter. And plus, I've had a gun stuck in my chest, so, with the Cockburns, I don't think they understand the gravity of what they've done, and they've made this personal on a level I never thought somebody would.
Well, they're desperate. You mentioned at the beginning of this segment, Denver Riggleman, you mentioned that some of their positions were extreme liberal. Can you just name several of them for us?
Oh, sure. I mean, everything they are extreme, with Medicare for all, forgiving all student, there's $1.48 trillion in student loan debt, free community college. The fact that she called ICE the Gestapo. There's other things that we have that we're going to roll out. Open borders. My goodness. You just go down the line. Everything that Ocasio-Cortez says is pretty much what Leslie Cockburn believes. And that's what's scary about this, is that she can't come across as moderate. Now she's trying to run to the middle. She knows her positions are extreme, so that's why she stays in Charlottesville. She doesn't really go outside the district much anymore. She likes to stay in her cocoon. And I think it really comes down to she's a true believer. And I you know what? I got to respect that. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's a true believer in these causes, but I'm a true believer in constitutional, policies, but also in individual liberty. So it is truly a war of ideas now. And I just hope that the Republicans get out and vote, because she's dangerous for the 5th District.
We're with Denver Riggleman, Republican candidate for Congress in the 5th District. He's running against his Democratic opponent, Leslie Cockburn. She's an author, has a lot of friends in Hollywood, and Denver running for the seat of the retiring Tom Garrett. Denver, let's get to some of the pressing issues on the world scene today that I want to get your opinion on. Let's start with Jamal Khashoggi, the so-called journalist, if you will, living in the United States, living in Virginia, doing a column for the Washington Post, very critical of the Saudi government, goes to the consulate in Istanbul for routine paperwork to get married, and it's like the old Roach Motel. He went in, but he never came out. Never came out. So it's like the Saudi Roach Motel. Now the stakes get elevated because President Trump said over the weekend, if he gets clear evidence that the Saudis were involved in this cold-blooded murder within their consulate in Istanbul, he said there would be severe punishment. Then Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, 33 years old, turns around on Sunday, fires back, and says if there's any sanctions against us or any retaliation, we're going to double down and we're going to affect economies and world markets and pull our sovereign fund and raise the price of oil and et cetera. We've got this arms deal with them, $110 billion, but they've only spent $15 billion. We're backing their war, their civil war with the Emirates in Yemen. Where do we go with this?
Well, number one, I think Saudi Arabia used to have a lot more leverage, but now that the United States is the number one oil and gas producer in the world, it's very difficult for them to, I think, sort of exert that kind of leverage on us. As far as President Trump's concerned, I think he's very serious. I mean, if it found out that the Saudi government sanctioned this type of behavior, I don't think he'll just suspend arms payments. I think he'll think about pulling any type of support against the Houthis in Yemen, and that is something because we really do not like Iran. They are our enemy, and they're backing the Houthis. And I'm just really interested to see because it is to try to extract Iran from what they're doing in state-sponsored terrorism is a very important goal of the United States government. But on the other hand, if the Saudis are doing this type of behavior, now you're talking about things that we just can't condone. And I think President Trump would go all the way. I think he would not only sanction them and take away their arms sales, I think he would ignore their threat on oil. And I think he would start to extract support for any kind of military stuff that they're doing over in the Middle East, any type of military, exercises or any type of operation. So it is serious.
Denver, the other side of it is that some people are saying that, well, look, the president and the Trump administration has invested a lot in the Saudi relationship in the 19 months he's been there. And we do have this $110 billion arms sale, although I want to keep pointing out that on paper, it's a memorandum of understanding for $110 billion, but they've only spent...
Yeah, an MOU.
Yeah, it's an MOU, but
right.
They've only spent $15 billion. So it's not, I mean, there's no signed deals or anything. It's just an understanding, right? So it's not real money. So some people are saying, you know what, maybe we just sweep this under the rug and move on. Business as usual. But Marco Rubio the other day said that whatever action we took could not be symbolic. What is your take on that?
He's right. I mean, if the Saudi government participated in killing somebody and it was sanctioned and we have the proof, my guess is it's going to be much more than symbolic. My guess is probably removal of support on multiple fronts. And I would say that is going to happen if we find that's been proven. And, on that line, I don't have all the classified information on that, and I couldn't answer to it anyway. But if something were found out, my guess is it would be much more than symbolic. I think Rubio's right, and I think that's why President Trump came out and said what he said.
And this just in from Sky News over the wire, President Trump says he is immediately, which means now, sending U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to meet Saudi Arabia's King Salman following the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi. So that just in that the president says that he's sending Pompeo there today today, not like in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that must mean they either have information, or they think they have information, or they need some assurances, or the United States needs to make sure they can explain the situation in a way that's correct. Because right now, if that's happening, that I think people could assume. I mean, you don't have to be the rocket scientist. You can assume that there's things very bothersome about this situation. So if he's sending Secretary Pompeo, I have a feeling there's some explaining to do. There's some splaining to do.
Denver, the Democrats now are saying that if Republicans maintain control of Congress, that they're going to take another shot at ripping away Obamacare. And the main thing that seems to have people concerned is changing the Obamacare rule on pre-existing conditions. How do you stand on that?
I think pre-existing conditions are important. I mean, we have that issue in our own family. And this thing I've answered, we can have a free market system, or one that leans free market system, and still have some basic minimum, sort of minimum controls, on our healthcare system. That's what's so funny, that it's such, polemical tripe. Oh my gosh, they're going to repeal and there's not going to be anything to replace. We're going to go back to the time before. Nah. I think what we're seeing is that we know Obamacare was a disaster from the beginning. And we have all kinds of issues. It's not just that. We have, fraud, waste, and abuse in the Medicare, Medicaid system. We have charges. The doctors can set their own charges for Medicare and Medicaid. There's no transparency in costing. There's no portability of health care. There's severe limits on HSAs. I think there's a lot of other things that we can do, but for them to say that, that's just fear mongering.
Well, let me read you a tweet that the president just sent out moments ago. He said
he's tweeting today.
I know, we get your comments on his tweets like live, right? Just 15 seconds ago.
This is great.
Isn't this great radio? So the president tweets out, just spoke with King of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, who denies any knowledge of whatever may have happened to, in quotations, our Saudi Arabian citizen. That's bin Salman's words. The president went on to say in his tweet, he said that they are working closely with Turkey to find an answer. I am immediately sending our Secretary of State to meet with the king, ! What do you make of that?
They just threw the word Turkey in there. That's amazing to me. I almost think, at this point, if they're denying it, I still think you send the Secretary of State to get a face-to-face and probably to look at the documents that they're using to say that there's other issues going on there. And my guess is we better hear something in the next couple of days from the Saudi government on some kind of plausible reason for something so horrific to happen. And I believe this is President Trump making sure that trust but verify, right? Like Ronald Reagan said, we're going to go over there and see what the heck's going on, and we'll come up with our own conclusion.
Well, and the Saudis have now agreed to let the Turkish authorities with them do a joint investigation. But isn't that kind of like the Fox hiring the Fox to clean out the hen house? That's
an interesting dynamic going on over there. And again, I think that's why the Secretary of State is on his way. Probably sort of shaking their head like, what's going on here? Let's go over and see what's actually happening over here, and what's being said, but also what documentation we can see on any type of proof they have for other people's, culpability.
All right, I got to read this other tweet, but I don't expect your comment on it.
Real-time tweet radio.
This is real-time tweet radio because I don't know where this comes from, but he tweets out and says, oh, no, who is this? Let me be sure it's him. No, this is from someone else, so I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I sort of, sometimes you got to read these and it's got his picture on it, but it's someone else. So anyway, that's the real time. Denver, in your district, I know you more than anybody talks to the other side. I know, like you mentioned, that your opponent, Leslie Cockburn, stays in Charlottesville where it's safe and she can talk to the liberals that share her vision. But I know that you go out and talk to Democrats all the time. What are they saying?
Well, I mean, I'm fortunate. We've had, 300,000 people come through our distillery. I live and work here, John, and that's the thing that gets me so angry about when things get so ridiculous and over the top personal with stuff that's just made up and fabricated is I actually work and live here, and to have people come through and to see the support we had, to even have somebody said now there's Denvercrats, that have come out of the woodwork.
Denvercrats.
It's just based on the fact that we tell the truth and we try to be transparent and do the right things. And what they're saying is that, we just got to get away from crazy. I think you have this radical middle out there. It's just sick of the screaming and the yelling, and especially what we've seen the last few weeks in the Senate. You've seen the breakdown of our political institutions. You see us trying to keep those institutions intact. I don't think people want that kind of rule. I don't think they want that kind of behavior at the time. And that's why I really try to stay relentlessly positive, but it's really difficult right now in this. The atmospherics right now are so vitriolic. I think you have a lot of people that are center left, center right, everybody there just getting a little tired of it, especially independent voters. So I think that's what you're saying.
What about these mobs that are pushing the Democratic agenda, banging on doors and running around, chasing people out of restaurants and chasing them down subway stairs? What is the deal with this?
I don't get it. I just, I don't get it. I mean, most of them are paid. I mean, this isn't something that's organic. And, there's this, I don't know, it's like this atmosphere of rage that everybody has to be angry about something. And when you take away the ability to talk about things rationally, or based on constitutional principles, or you're just, screaming for free stuff, or that everybody's evil or everybody's wrong, people automatically sort of turn off to that because they understand there's two sides to every story sometimes. And I think that there has to be some kind of rule of law. There has to be corroboration. There has to be people who listen to each other. There has to be obviously empathy and compassion, but there can't be insanity. And I think you see people turned off by insanity. I see it all over the district. The excitement is there now. I'm just very, very positive that we're going to win on the 6th.
All right. Denver, confident of victory. I have you as a pretty overwhelming favorite there. But favorites don't matter because the only poll that matters is the one on November 6th in the 5th district. That's it. That's all that matters. You got to get your people out. So
we're going to run the same race, John, whether we're 10 points up or 10 points behind. I mean, it's discipline, right? And it's hitting your marks. And that's what we're going to do. That's what mission planners do. And that's what we're going to do.
Hashtag the Denvercrats. Denvercrats. I love that, Denver. Denvercrats.
Somebody came up and told me that. I said, my gosh, that is really bizarre, and because I don't think people are screaming about Trump as people think. They see the economy. They see what's going on. They see the 4.2% GDP growth. They see the lowest jobless claims in 49 years. They see six successive quarters of growth. They see unemployment at 3.7%. This is not a joke, and this is for real. And I think when people are looking what the policies are, you're starting to see people come around and say, wait a minute, I don't think we want, higher taxes, pushing socialist agendas and just making us all indentured servants to the government for the foreseeable future. People need to reject that, and I think you see that.
Denver, we're out of time. More information, go to denverforcongress.com and be a Denvercrat. I love that. Denver.
Well, it's just hilarious.
Did you make that up? Goodness. Who made that up?
No. Oh, my gosh, this was actually over at the College Republicans.
Denvercrat.
So, with Democrats on campus starting to come my way, just because they've had enough of the far left fringe element of their party.
Denvercrats. Go to denverforcongress.com.
That's what's happening.
denverforcongress.com and be a Denvercrat.